Welcome back to Red vs. Blue with Scott and Andrew, episode 4. We want to thank everybody for downloading and listening. We hit 10,000 downloads on this previous episode. That's what I'll be saying when we actually do hit that number. Right now, we're still working our way up. But in all seriousness, this episode that we just recorded was hilarious during post-production. I think you guys will enjoy it. We had a good friend of ours on, Dan DeHoog from Illinois. He spoke with us about immigration and also about the European Court for Human Rights ruling that defamation of the Prophet Muhammad does not fall under protected speech. The debate about immigration got a little heated, but everybody came out unscathed. No vile words were thrown around, so we did a pretty good job. We think you guys will definitely enjoy this episode. Once again, if you guys have concerns or you guys have questions or you think that somebody said something wrong or you just want to give your input, just email us at redvbluepodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on our website as well, rvbpodcast.com. Go to our Facebook, Red vs. Blue with Scott and Andrew. You guys can find us pretty much anywhere on social media. Let us know what you think. And once again, you're hearing our intro music that we made, but if you guys are artists or you make your own music and you'd like it to be heard on a different platform, send it on over to us and we will play it. You'll get your music plugged, heard by people on a different platform than you may not be used to, and we'll have music to make the intros more exciting, make the outros more exciting, and not the same song all the time. So sit back and listen to episode 4. Hopefully you guys have a really good time. Thanks for listening. What's going on, Scott?
Oh, man. Oh, just having a good time. It's good to see you again, Andrew.
Hey, so Dan is sitting there in the dark in his room, not talking yet because we haven't invited him, formally onto the show. So we could say whatever we want at this point, and he's not allowed to say anything.
I know. That's why I'm trying to think of other things to talk about that don't involve him.
Right. It is pretty exciting, though. You talk to Dan quite a bit, don't you?
Dan and I, we can talk for hours, and we have, for several hours on probably dozens of occasions. He knows a lot about a lot of different things, and has made me feel foolish at times for believing things that weren't true. He's up on a lot it's interesting to get his perspective.
Do those talks typically revolve around politics?
Well, sometimes politics, sometimes technology or religion, or I guess those would probably be the biggest three, or current events, things like that are going on, that are being covered by the news, in bad ways, but differently, right? Typically, so.
No, I get it. You know what? I can't remember when we were all in the Marine Corps together. Were any of us into politics, current events, anything like that as much as we are now, or was it more of a passive interest in it?
What do you think, Dan?
I think.
Dan, we brought. So you just introed Dan.
So I thought you said we because you mentioned Dan. See, this whole idea is just flawed.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll cut all that out. Let me intro Dan in. So we got Dan DeHoog sitting in the dark. Bring him in. Dan, how you doing, my man? Dan, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Do you like your intro music?
Dan is very white.
Right.
So he must be Russian.
Yeah. He's got to have that song. And why is he not talking? Dan, we've introed you into the show. This is actually going to stay on the show. I'm liking the way this is going.
Yeah,
this is hilarious.
Great. Dan, what's caught your eye recently in the news? What have you been thinking about lately as far as politics goes?
Well, obviously the midterms are coming up. It's a big thing.
I'm just going to hear what you have to say and then poke holes in it or
Dan,
endorse it if you're lucky.
Dan, what's your opinion on the blue wave?
See, that's how you do it, Ferg.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. it could go both ways. It still could. It could just be a toss-up.
Yeah.
I don't think much is going to change.
You don't think?
Yeah,
the
regardless of
Democrats
what
are gonna-
happens. Yeah.
You don't think the Democrats are going to win the House?
I don't know. They could. Depends if they go out and vote.
I think what
There's
Dan
a lot more of them.
I think what Dan was saying was, even if they do, that it's not going to be much different than it is now. I could see that.
Well, that too, but
Well, some things will be a lot different. Like for people like Wilbur Ross and Donald Trump.
Who the hell's Wilbur Ross?
Because he's the Commerce Secretary.
Oh,
Yeah, he's the guy that looks like just super old and just like saggy. Just, he's like this, I think he's probably a billionaire, but former coworkers of his have accused him of being a grifter and essentially stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from them in shady business deals and stuff. Like, he's this really shady character, and he's also come under a lot of scrutiny, even with the Republicans controlling the House and the Senate, of course, for his ethics violations and he and his wife holding, hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars of stock in companies that he's making decisions about, that he's helping craft policy about. And it's a direct violation. No, he's a cabinet secretary. He's in the executive branch but he has to abide by certain ethics. He said that he divested himself of certain holdings that weren't actually true. He had to go back and correct that. But anyway, so people like him, and there are a lot of them in the Trump administration, who've been getting a free pass because the Republicans are controlling the House and they have no interest in going after anybody in the Trump administration. But if the Democrats win the House, all of that changes. They have all of this oversight power. They get to decide what the House Oversight Committee and the different powers that they have. They can finally, put those to use, and it's gonna mean it's gonna be a whole different world for people like Wilbur Ross then, and the whole Trump administration.
Yeah,
well, that's one guy though.
That's me. It's not just him, but he's like kind of a poster child. Really, he's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. But like Scott Pruitt wouldn't have lasted nearly as long as he did if the Democrats controlled the House.
Yeah, I think he's a poster child for being bad. I don't know if he represents the entire Trump cabinet.
No, not everybody.
In being a piece of crap.
I'm not saying everybody, but
right.
It's worse than most administrations.
I don't think much is going to change on the Republican side, even if they lose, because they haven't really been successful, getting anything passed in the first place anyways, right? So,
yeah, they don't even know what to do even in the status quo. They're talking about maybe another tax cut, and that probably all totally came from Trump himself.
They've done a couple of big things, but not a lot. You have control of everything. They should have completed a lot more than what they have, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to feel good for people like me to see people like that go down.
That's true. The virtuous Democrats are going to ride in on their moral horse of victory and take down all the bad guys, and then the government will be full of a bunch of righteous, great men that love this country and the people in it.
See? Man, I thought it was going to take longer to get you to see things.
That's true. Whenever I look at Democrats, I basically see Jesus. I don't say that, like to disparage them and then say Republicans are great. I think there's crap on both sides. It sucks.
It's true. No, you're absolutely right about that. It's like.
So are you hardcore Republican, Andrew?
I'd say I'm probably more libertarian, but if you were to pick, I'd say I'm lean more conservative. I don't know if I don't think I'm a Republican. I think I'm more of a conservative libertarian.
You're a snowflake, right?
I'm a Bernie bro.
He is a Bernie bro.
That doesn't mean snowflake, Dan. Again, I don't think you know what that means.
You can keep saying that.
Yeah, he just keeps saying it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you think.
This show's going to have a...
It's like what Andrew said. It's like what Andrew said in one of the other episodes. It's like, I'm not a snowflake. I'm just pissed. I'm not a offended. I'm just pissed off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because people love, if you're mad, why are you getting so offended? No, I'm very mad. Hey, you know what's weird? You ever see when people, okay, so if you saw someone crying, you would say, why are you getting so emotional, But and this is
Why would you say that, getting so emotional?
No, people would say that. I've seen people say that. But I don't say it. But I've been very mad before, like super angry, and people will go, why are you getting so emotional? But the word emotional is infuriating because you only associate it with crying, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't associate being real angry with being emotional, but it is. It's true. It's an emotion.
It is. Oh, yeah.
But it just sounds so emasculated. It doesn't sound manly to be emotional.
Is it important to you that people see you as manly, Andrew?
Yes.
Yes.
There was not even a pause there.
There was a bigger pause in the moral dilemma that I had for you a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't even let you finish your question just now before I answered.
Oh, I was done. I think I was done with it.
Oh, okay. So Dan is actually on the other line, not talking. Dan, are you emotional?
No.
That's true. You are like a robot.
Yeah. Literally a robot. You guys can see.
Oh, no.
The picture.
I'm actually not using a voice changer on Dan's voice. He really is that monotone.
Well, maybe we should move into the first topic of debate. Andrew?
Yeah. Welcome aboard, Dan.
What you
Thanks for
got?
joining the show. Thanks, guys. How is everything?
If you can't hear me, that's your fault. Turn me up.
I can hear you. Okay, first topic. You want to let's start with immigration. What specifically about immigration did you want to address, Scott?
Oh, I figured we could all kind of, because I don't have my head all wrapped around it. I thought we could trade ideas and learn from each other's perspectives. It seems like, in the world that we live in of nation states, with laws that apply only within borders, you got to secure those borders. I understand that. But it seems to me that the debate about immigration in the country today is mostly misplaced. It doesn't even need to be taking place right now. Like, it's at a time where people are less and less coming to the country and even actually moving back to Mexico because there are more opportunities there, and so it just seems to me like, this whole issue that's dominating the news, it's not some emergency. It's okay that people come into the country. We're not being overburdened.
I think
that's what it seems like to me.
The 7,000 people at once is the
they're legally entitled to come and apply for asylum by international law, at least. It's like that they're just doing something. The first
right.
The first one that came, in April or whatever, it was the same thing. It wound up being like 300 or 400 people in the end applying for asylum. These are people who are fleeing extremely violent and desperate conditions. And it seems to me that the president is just using this as an opportunity to inflame tensions and fire up his base.
The only issue that I have is, women and children, of course, give them asylum if they need it. But when you have like 18, 20, 25-year-old men that can kind of stay in their own country and stand up for it and fight for their own country, that's a little bit different. It just seems to be, and they're carrying flags of their country and stuff like that. It's kind of a little weird.
Well, okay, but a lot of times it's the people who do stand up against the power structures in their countries who are the ones that really do need to flee. What would you say to them then when there are death squads, chasing them down? Keep fighting?
I think that seeking.
It is, for sure. I agree. Yeah.
I also think and obviously I don't know, so this is giving my opinion, but man, that seeking asylum is it's just a free cookie, man. It's like remember
you don't necessarily get approved.
Right, but remember people were coming over in hordes from Mexico, and as the news showed it, everybody was seeking asylum, and everybody was saying, "Oh, they're doing it the right way. They're coming to seek asylum." And so everybody coming from places in Central America and South America, all these people are seeking asylum. It's bad. It's not that bad.
I don't know. I can't say that it's not. I know that it's a lot worse than it is here.
They denied it. It's what's a little weird, right?
I thought that they were having a hard time getting into Mexico. I thought
no,
that there was a first wall because I think the Mexico, the southern Mexico border is pretty heavily fortified.
Yeah, that was when they let him through, and the president of Mexico offered him asylum, I believe, and offered him a place to live and work and all that, and most of them declined it and just continued to march. They wanted to go to Mexico City or something. I read today or yesterday, and then further on.
Oh, I didn't see that.
America.
That's interesting.
I had that right.
How many people did that take out of the caravan or convoy?
Not very many. They're actually picking up more and more as they travel through Mexico. There's people jumping on as well.
Also, fleeing death squads and seeking asylum.
Well, I mean, actually, there are there's a lot of violence, drug-related violence in Mexico too.
I mean, that's true. There is.
It's really true.
I agree.
There are definitely people who would hitch up on something like that for sure.
There's also people who take advantage of something like that as well. The situation and join the convoy.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I agree with that.
Well, yeah, that's true too. Yep, for sure. Yep. That's what we all do. We all take advantage of our opportunities.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right.
No, but what we have to do is look at what's going on here and decide whether or not this is an imminent threat to our country for any reason. And it doesn't seem that it is to me at all. Not even a little bit.
What about, so the government has set numbers of immigration that they can allow, they can allow, right? I don't even know how to say that. I don't know what the right way to say that would be, but don't they say we can allow this many people per month?
I think so.
To come across, and that's planned, right? But a 4,000 person convoy is not planned.
No.
I think it's 7,000.
Oh. Asylum is different. It's a matter of people can live here legally without being citizens. But then, or you can live here illegally before you try to we can't legally live here illegally, but a lot of people do live here illegally before they gain a legal status,
right?
And then they eventually become citizens, but they end up participating in our culture, assimilating extremely well, paying taxes, and basically if they were forced to live in Mexico the entire time, it takes at least like 10 years for this whole process to
It is long. I agree. It is long.
And in that case, you're spending most of your formative life, all of those years where you could have had some quality education. So it's like you just can't.
But there's a
you
certainly
can't blame the kids. This whole DACA thing about saying, who cares if you were simply brought here by your parents.
Well, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
Well, but it is part of this whole immigration issue right now.
Compartmentalize it.
Lives.
But compartmentalize it. DACA it's part of the same issue, but it's a separate thing. So we're just talking about an influx of people coming over when you have a planned amount of people that you can realistically bring over and account for as far as money and resources. But
yeah,
then you have
again, the convoy or whatever that came up in April or whatever turned out to be no big deal.
But it's not April now.
What's that?
It's another convoy. You can't just say, well, the one in April was no big deal.
I'm just saying they made a big deal out of that one too. This one's probably going to be the same thing. It's not going to be people tearing down the wall or the fence.
So you're saying let everybody over for speculation that it's probably going to be okay?
Well, we'll just go through the procedures that
like
we
the
have,
regular vetting process and stuff.
Don't politicize it like the president does with everything.
I wouldn't blame it all on the president, dude. It's being politicized by other people too. It's being politicized on both ends.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not just President Trump making them out to be a bunch of dirty scumbags coming over here and ruining our
country. He did make them
country.
out to be a bunch of dirty scumbags.
The
He
conflict.
said they're a bunch of rapists and criminals. They're not sending us their best.
No, please.
That's what he
He
said.
didn't assign that
That's
to
what he
all
said.
Mexicans. He assigned that to he said that
The
people
people that are
like
coming
that come
over.
over. Yeah, he said people like that come over.
He said they're not sending us their best.
I'm-
He hasn't said very nice things, and that's okay.
You're
This
right.
doesn't mean that you can condone what he's said, but he has said some really nasty things.
No, I
So-
agree.
but you're right. It doesn't help. It doesn't help the conversation that we're having. So,
How do you assimilate 7,000 people that enter your country at once?
well, we would be the people to ask. We're
Yeah.
like envy
The way
of,
they do it before is
of
you just
all
kind
of
of let them,
Europe. They don't know how we do it, but we do.
because
Sorry
we
about
don't allow 7,000 people at once to come in. We let them come in slowly over time and separate them. But if you allow a huge group all at once, it's not going to be, there'll just be a local area, maybe in Texas or Southern California, that they all go to.
we did that. We did that with refugees coming from Vietnam and other parts of Southeast Asia. San Diego is actually striped. If you looked at the ethnic makeup of East County, it's like striped with people from Laos, and then people from Vietnam, and then people from just all these different areas of the world that experienced crises and had massive refugee populations that we took in and
Have we
assimilated
let this many people
extremely
over
well.
at once?
I don't know the numbers. I just know that we do this really well. We have and it doesn't.
Yeah, because
it just
we do it-
seems like more of the same, in both in terms of the refugee population, the influx of immigrants, and in the politicization of it. It's always happening. Both are always happening at the same time, and we've always just continued to become a better and more diverse country through
Legal,
immigration
regulated
and
immigration.
integration.
I think, but through regulated immigration, not through convoys. I just don't think this.
Again, they're going through the channels that have been set up for this.
What do you
So
think?
anyway,
I get you there. I get what you're saying there. Also, on the topic of assimilation, I don't know if that they all just come over and assimilate really well and it goes well. Remember, what was this 2 years ago, and at those high schools that are predominantly Mexican out in California, where they're ripping down the American flag and burning it right there at the high school and raising up the Mexican flag and the Colombian flag and all that stuff? I mean, that doesn't sound like assimilation.
That's not as bad as a school shooting. It's
You
can't
use that argument. You can't say,
What do
well,
you
it's
mean?
not as bad as
These kids aren't
this.
assimilating into the culture that they've been born into.
That's not that. No, you assimilate to America. You don't have to adopt white people's culture, but you assimilate to America.
But you adapt to the culture that you're born into, or you don't. Some people are essentially outcasts. They don't feel at home in the culture. They don't feel like they have anything in common with the people around
Well,
them.
I'm sorry, that's not the way to handle it. Ripping down the flag and burning it, and that. Okay,
if
you agree to say no, dude, if you agree saying that, okay, well, it's not as bad as shooting up a school. That's not an argument. That's just saying. That's like a baby saying, well, my sister did it, so I can do it too.
You're just pointing at the behavior of a certain group, and I'm saying
right, because I'm making a point.
The group that lives here, behaves badly too. It's not like they're some sort of primary source of problems. That's all. I'm just saying, it's not what anybody'd like to see, ripping up the flag and stuff like that. Of course not. I don't want to see that either. But
right.
What are they talking about? Why are they doing it? Sometimes all you need to do is listen and see what they're asking. What they have to say. Of course, I can't tell you what these people were talking about, but you're going to find that everywhere where people are just nasty.
I agree with that. I agree that on both ends of the spectrum, there's people that are shitty like that. But I don't know if wearing your shawl and your glasses and walking over there with your hands clasped together after they're burning the flag and please tell me what you're upset about. I don't know if that's the way to handle that situation. Being petulant shouldn't be rewarded with people saying, wow, maybe they need to be listened to. That's not, I just don't think petulance deserves niceties. Do you think that immigration is as much of a hot button issue as gun control? Which one do you think's worse? Which one do you think gets people more furious?
Gun control for sure.
I think it depends on what side of the aisle you're on.
Yeah, you're right.
I think
You're probably right.
Liberals are like, fuck guns, stupid guns.
Yeah.
You know, but they're not huge, you know, like Obama didn't do anything about guns when he was in office, you know, but, you know, immigration, our hearts bleed, you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. You know, but
That's
then on the same time, it's like conservatives are like, their hearts are like super, they bleed over their guns, you know, so that's important to them.
My heart bled tonight when I was shining my guns.
You have guns?
Me?
Yeah.
Lots of them.
But you never think about them.
No, dude, I dream about them. Like I lay my rifle down in the pillow next to me, and I'm like, oh, my sweet, rest easy, my love. And then I leave my front door cracked open with like a trail of dollar bills leading out into the street, hoping that a robber will come in.
You drive a truck too?
Yeah. What do you call it when you drive a diesel and you blow all the black smoke? What's that called?
I don't know, but I fucking hate it.
Yeah, rolling coal. That's it. Rolling coal.
I never heard that.
Is it rolling coal? Oh, dude, you never seen it? You drive a Prius. I'm sure you've had it hundreds of times. Like, you never seen smoke come out of a truck before?
No, he's never heard.
I've never heard that term.
He never heard the term.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Rolling smoke? Is that what it was?
No, rolling coal. Rolling coal.
That happened to you?
Oh, coal, right.
Yeah. Scott, answer Dan.
Oh, that never happens to me.
You're so full of shit.
If I'm on the freeway, maybe it's happened to me, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not around. You know, no.
Scott.
This isn't Illinois, Dan.
You just 10 and 2 looking at the freeway.
I only have my left hand on the steering wheel because that's the cool way to do it, and I lean inside towards the inside of the car.
Yeah,
right.
He's basically a very white cholo. Scott, you know what's funny is Dan said you were in a Prius. I just picture you in a Prius, and then some guy comes by rolling coal, and your whole car is engulfed in black.
Oh yeah, but that's never happened to me. Is that something they
that's
like
what
when
they
you're
do
behind
on purpose.
them? When you're behind them, is that it?
Yeah, they do it on purpose too.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
It's huge here in Texas.
That. I've seen stuff come out of their, smoke pipes, but not like anything excessive where I'd be like,
no, it's on the ground. It's not the pipes. It's the tailpipe, not the pipes.
Yeah, how do they even do it?
Car.
Man, they probably do it to you, Dan, because you're such an asshole when you drive.
Yeah, well, sure, but
they got your plates. They know you.
Out of all the douchebags and big trucks, I fucking hate it. Unless they're a farmer and they need the truck. Other than that, you're just a douchebag. There's no reason to have a clean truck with no scratches on it whatsoever. You're just a douchebag.
The next Louis C.K., ladies and gentlemen. He's just as white, and
Louis C.K. is Mexican.
No, but he's a pretty white dude.
He is white for a Mexican.
Nobody would argue that he's white, except you, Dan.
Mexicans, you racist fuck.
Look at the guy. He's white, dude.
Yeah, and Dan's very white.
Mexicans are white as well. They're white Mexicans.
So why are you correcting me then?
Because you said he's white. He's not white.
Well, he meant by his skin tone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
Oh, I mean, go to hell, Scott. Dan, can because I don't tell it that well, Scott tells it really well. Well, can we tell the water bottle story?
Sure.
Go ahead, Scott. I love this story.
Oh, me, but actually, I don't know why you're putting it on me. I got it wrong last time.
I don't.
You had to correct me.
You only got it wrong based on.
Oh, I got it wrong when I told Dan because I thought Brian was with us.
No,
it
Brian
was Andrew.
When Melinda
did the guy throw something at you, or did he just cut you off and then you threw your water bottle at him?
Yeah, so we were getting on the freeway in San Diego. There's ways you can cut in front of people and be a complete douchebag if they're waiting in line.
Right.
He did it really bad and slammed on his brakes because somebody was in front of us. And then we got on the freeway. We were, I don't know, 19, 20.
Yeah.
Pissed off. And I was driving. And I was so pissed off that I threw. It was like a full Mountain Dew bottle that I just got. I just bought it. We're privates or PFCs or Lance Corporal making nothing, so it costs a lot. And then I just chucked it at him as hard as I could, and it was a nice new BMW, I think it was, silver, and it just caved in the side of the door enough to where you could see it. Not caved in, but it was a nice, dent.
Big old dent.
Yes, and then he was like 3 lanes over, and then he chucked one back at us, and it was a water bottle, and then it hit my car, and it didn't. You don't remember that?
I didn't remember getting hit back.
Yeah.
But it hit the car. It didn't do anything to it, and then he hurry up and exited the freeway. The next on.
Oh, he got off right after that?
Yeah, he chucked it and got off.
He
it
left.
was a single dude versus 3, so he was getting the fuck out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
we were really intimidating at the time.
we all looked like Nazis.
We
only looked like Nazis because of the Marine Corps haircut.
Yeah,
right.
Cuts,
We all
right?
buzz
All
cuts.
3 white guys with buzz cuts.
Yeah. Well, Scott, your swastika tattoos weren't helping anything.
I have 0 tattoos. Everybody, thank you.
On his forehead.
Yeah, that's right. It was plastered right on his forehead.
Mushroom stamp.
Hey, speaking of cars, do you guys remember when I bought that stupid yellow Ford Focus hatchback out there in San Diego?
Yeah.
I had to put it in a U-Haul.
Yep, that's right. My dad still gives me crap for buying that car. Because if you remember, I had a ton of problems with it when I bought it. I bought it off a used car lot, and the guys were like, "Oh no, this thing's awesome! It's gonna you're gonna get chicks with it and everything." Because they had that stupid bumblebee muffler on it and all that stuff, and the carbon fiber. Well, anyway,
fart pipe.
What's that?
It's a fart pipe.
Oh, it had a fart pipe on it.
Don't make it sound cool. It's a fart pipe. It makes it sound like it's farting to make it.
Yeah, that's true. I did try to make it sound cooler.
Yeah.
So it had an idling issue. So when I would pull up to stoplights, it would die unless I, gave it some gas and ran it about, 800 RPM or something. And then one time I pulled up to a stoplight, and there were these 2 girls in a Mustang sitting there, and they were pretty good looking. And I pulled up next to them, and the car was rumbling pretty bad, and so I gave it some gas. I had it probably at about 14 or 1500 RPM. It was going, I was sitting there at the light. And then one of the girls looked over, thought I was trying to show off, and gave me the finger and called me a douchebag and drove off. So that car.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that was exactly right. Yeah, that was me. So we'll talk about the European Court for Human Rights. I guess ruling that defaming Muhammad does not fall under free speech. I don't agree with that. I think that's crap. Man, I hate the term slippery slope, but that's what that is.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's just not, it's not consistent with the ideals that I was brought up, the kind of American ideals of free speech and free expression,
Yeah.
And we've been essentially scared into not doing it for the most part. Even Comedy Central. Remember South Park? They were going to do it like 10 or 15 years ago, have an image of the Prophet Muhammad on one of their shows, and they bailed.
I didn't know this happened.
Last minute. Yeah. They had it like, I don't remember what they did, but they were like, no, it's not worth the trouble that it can bring.
Well, they had Muhammad prior to that, and nobody said anything because it was prior to the Charlie Hebdo.
Before it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
they
did.
It was politicized way before Charlie Hebdo.
Right, but they had it was the Circle of Friends or whatever it was, the Table of Friends, and they had Muhammad in there at that point. You could still go see it.
Huh.
Yeah, but after all that happened, they tried to do it again, and that's when they cut it and blocked it out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, free speech is pretty solid here in the United States compared to the rest of the world, especially Europe. You said that's the European World Court.
Yeah, I've never even heard of the European Court for Human Rights.
They have a national religion as well, right? So it's a little bit different than what we have.
The UK.
Yeah, Brits.
Mm-hmm.
They have a national religion.
Yeah. The Church of England.
Yeah.
Some of it's compulsory, and they don't enjoy the same level of free speech that we do. If it's the World Court, that I'm familiar with, everybody is subjected to its rulings essentially, except for I think it's like the UN World Court or whatever. There's 5 nations that have veto power in the UN Security Council, and so that's the United States, Britain, France, Russia, and China. So basically, the court works.
Who was that country before China?
Russia.
Sorry, Scott. I had to.
I said it too.
You're gonna have to get a little quicker with that.
Oh no, sorry. Okay, go ahead. Let's go to an opinion. Dan, where do you think the line should be drawn on free speech, or do you think you should be able to say anything you want? Like that, basically, hate speech should not exist.
No, you should be able to say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Speech is speech. You can't stop any speech.
Right.
Slippery slope, right?
Yeah, I agree.
No.
I mean, no inciting violence or anything like that?
Well, you can't say fire in a movie theater, right?
Right.
No, there shouldn't be any restrictions on speech whatsoever.
What was your answer to when Scott brought up like inciting violence?
Or like libel and slander, where you're defaming a person. It could cause a lot of harm to them financially or personally, professionally. I think the laws that we have in place are pretty reasonable. I think we enjoy a really high
I have
level
no
of
problem.
free speech, but we do have restrictions on it. So
right, like you can't say fire in a movie theater.
uh-huh.
What do you think, Andrew?
I don't. Yeah, I think you should be able to say whatever you want. I don't think that hate speech should be a thing. Like if somebody says something that would fall into the category of hate speech, then I would disagree that it would be hate speech. Do you think that they apply that blanket over other religions, or do you think maybe it falls over Muhammad? So, because you know that there's tons of depictions of the Virgin Mary being raped on pictures, or Jesus being, defiled on the cross or anything like that. You see lots of stuff like that, but I obviously haven't done enough research to find out, does that protection fall over that too? What's your opinion on provocative speech? So do you think, okay, so let me give you an example. If somebody, let's say a white guy, goes into the hood and surrounds himself with a bunch of black guys and starts slinging the N-word around and calling him, every name in the book, and he gets the shit kicked out of him, is that okay?
Yes.
I think that's okay.
Wouldn't that be okay? I mean, the black guys that beat the shit out of them will likely get charged, which will be fine as well. So you shouldn't.
Well, I think the fact that they would be charged means that it's not okay to
that's
do that.
That's what I'm saying. I think
that's
it
how I
should be.
feel. I don't
right.
think it's
You
okay
think,
just because they said words that you can
yeah,
just beat them
you
up?
shouldn't. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, but he should get his ass kicked.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he needs
kick
it.
their ass should also, if they're caught. I mean, there's
right.
nothing wrong with them getting in trouble as well.
See, I'm fringe here, though. I'm fringe in that I think, yes, he should get his ass kicked royally, and they should also be fine.
Not get in trouble.
You're correct. It's provocative speech. You can't. Hey. You can't. They use that in courts. They use that in courts between couples. So one person in a couple can't press someone's button over and over and over and provoke them into a violent act. Granted, there's consequences to that, but the courts will look at that.
A liberal should be able to assault a Republican because they don't agree with what they're saying.
No, I mean, let's try to be a little reasonable here. I mean, just because somebody comes over and says
it's the same thing.
Not really. I mean, everybody knows the gravity of that word. Everybody knows how severe it's gonna.
No, I'm not saying I'm just saying their feelings could be the same. Right. Well, yeah, it's kind
I
of
guess that's
too.
true. It's subjective. It is subjective because somebody might not get triggered by one word, and somebody else might be, fly off the handle because they heard it. So that's true. It is subjective. But I'm still sticking by what I said. That person should have his ass kicked, and the other people should be fine. Just
They likely won't get in trouble, but I'm saying if they were to get in trouble, it's also.
Yeah, aren't you supposed to be from the party of the rule of law, Andrew?
I'll say this: if they were to get in trouble, I wouldn't care. I mean, I wouldn't stand up for their rights to be able.
What if it was MS-13?
Oh, they're a bunch of animals and rapists, so they, you know. If it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I guess if you
allow some people to assault sometimes, and you're gonna
it's just a bad idea.
Nah, but I'm more of a Wild West kind of guy. I mean, I'm for people going around kicking the shit out of people, and you know that's how. You know what?
Some states where it's allowed if it's a consensual fight.
Yeah, it's called mutual. It's called mutual combat.
Yeah, that's a neat idea. But
Texas
I don't know if
has that.
mutual.
Texas has it.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was like Montana.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. No, I'm just kidding. I did not. You know, I saw a picture the other day, and it rings true to me. I mean, it is extreme, but it said in the barbarian days, people were a lot more civil because they had a fear of getting their head caved in with a war hammer. And I thought, that's probably true. I mean, nobody back in those days probably walked around calling somebody a jackass and with no concern that they're going to get their ass kicked, because that happens a lot now.
They did because they were bigger, or they had a gun, or they knew they were a better fighter.
Yeah, one of them had a gun.
Just wield that power.
One of them had a gun.
But now we actually live in a much more civil world.
I don't think so, man. I think people were nicer.
Do.
I think people were nicer when it comes to when it comes to daily interaction like that. I really do think that people
maybe to their in-group.
It's because humans today are bored. They don't have to hunt for food. They don't have to worry about you know, the farm. They don't have to worry about all that other bullshit. They can just sit on their computer and bitch and then go to the store and buy their food. And
see, Scott, Dan agrees with me. You're wrong. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, you're just way less likely to die of war in warfare these days than in any point in history.
Yeah, that's true. I did give a pretty good argument there, though. Oh wait, Scott. Here's for your argument. Dan, here's for your argument.
I heard nothing.
And for Scott's argument.
You gotta have a
static,
in mind.
like crickets.
Yeah, something, man.
I've got to have a what?
Crickets or a booing or something.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. You can't just be dead silence.
You just look like a douchebag with nothing.
I know, now I look
that's
like
coming from somebody who you gave cheers to.
Hold on, let me download crickets real quick. Let me download 7 crickets. All right, Dan, keep your damn mouth shut. Hold on. All right, welcome to Getting Philosophical with Scott Ferguson. All right, Scott. Did you hear the excitement in my voice?
That was terrible.
No, I'm just kidding. Here we go. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so this week, we're actually going to revisit, what we talked about last week, which, I hadn't done my homework, and I didn't even know what it was called, but now I have, and it's called The Ship of Theseus. And I don't know, Dan, have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so the Ship of Theseus basically is a thought experiment where you say, well, you've got this ship, right? And it's got, it is like, you could name it, it's a ship. So, but if you replace one plank of the ship, is the identity of the ship still intact?
Dan, you answer that one. I already know the answer. Is it still the
same ship after you replace one plank, or is it a totally different ship?
Is this where your cells in your body change over 7 years? Or
Dang,
see,
Dan's
that's how we
genius.
got derailed last week. Yeah, that's
it's the same ship.
Modern analogy to it, but but there's a slightly more interesting twist to it when you do it this way. So I mean, do you think that it's the same ship if you replace a plank? I mean, is it? Is there something there that stays the same over time like that?
Yes, it's the same ship.
It's the same ship. Okay.
Even if you replace every plank, it's the same ship.
It's the same ship. But what if in the meantime that you were replacing these, you were actually rebuilding the original ship with the same planks? Then so then you've got a whole new ship, but then the original ship of Theseus is actually rebuilt as.
Why would you replace the planks in the first place?
Well, this is a thought experiment. That's not what it's about. So which ship is the ship?
Dumb.
No, it's not dumb.
Yes, it is. Why would you replace something that doesn't need to replace?
You got tricked.
I didn't get tricked. That's
Which
dumb.
is the ship? You said the ship is the new one.
The original ship is still the ship. If you replace one plank at a time, but if you're replacing it because you're an idiot and there's no reason to replace planks, you're just an idiot.
Scott, this is the greatest thought experiment. Like Dan's literalism on this one is amazing.
Oh, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings with that one, Dan.
No, it's dumb.
Just kidding.
Dude, this is hilarious.
Something that's not broke.
But you answered the question as though it was obvious before, and I throw in one
still
new
obvious.
little notch.
No. You're saying what if you don't have enough wood?
What do you mean you don't have enough wood?
Wait.
Oh, this is awesome.
Why would you replace a part on a ship that wasn't defective?
Wait,
why would you then
point.
use that defective part to build another ship?
It's a brand new ship, okay? And you've got this whole ship you've named it, right? It's your ship, and it's your beauty, it's your baby, and then just as a thought experiment, is it still the same baby, the same beauty if you replace a plank of that ship with a different piece of material? Most people say, yeah, but then you replace every single one of them, and it's like, yeah, over time, sure, that makes sense. It's still the same ship, but then you realize that the original ship has been rebuilt in its original form, and it seems weird to still consider this new ship to be the original ship when the actual original ship still exists. It's a neat thought experiment. You don't have to get.
Yeah, you don't have to get hurtful, Dan.
It's dumb. It's fucking dumb.
But the ship's soul is still the same. The soul of the ship lives on.
Why are you just going to start tearing down walls and replacing them in your house? Why would you ever do that?
No, not the point.
Man, you know what?
Wall, but I'm going to go ahead and tear down this piece of drywall and replace it with a new piece, and then I'm going to save this.
It's a thought experiment.
Can I say something here? I thought I was the most black and white person on the face of the planet until Dan answered your thought experiment. This is awesome. Dan's answer is highly entertaining. Why would you put defective parts that you just took off back on the same? Last year, my leg had gangrene, and they cut it off. And they were like, hey, we still got this leg. Let's put it on his other hip.
Let's build a Frankenstein for no reason. Because it's a thought experiment.
Frankenstein's
what do you mean, what do I mean? You know that shit's dumb.
Frankenstein's awesome.
Wait. No, you mean build Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, you're right.
You're just as bad. You're just as bad. You're one of those. You're one of those. I bet you read the book too, didn't you? You read it, right?
Well, first of all, this conversation is so boring that I'm reading it right now. While I'm talking. No,
hey,
actually,
you're the de facto host here.
This
Andrew,
no,
so
I was kidding about that. This was not boring. This is entertaining.
No.
Dan's answer was hilarious.
Jesus.
So should we ask him about the other one then?
Yes.
It was so much fun, right? Okay, now we're gonna go back and ask Dan about week 2's philosophical dilemma, since we had such a good time talking about week 3's. Dan, okay, picture yourself on a train platform. You've got a train coming, and it's gonna kill 5 people, no matter what, except that you can hit this switch, and it'll throw the train onto a separate set of tracks that'll only kill 1 person. Do you flip the switch?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So about 90% of the people agree with you. That's a good thing to do. That's what Andrew said too. That's what I agree with. But then
that's the nuclear bomb debate as well.
Okay, well, how about if we change it up a little bit, and now there's no switch, but there's an extremely fat person standing next to you on the track on the platform, and you could push them in front of the trolley, in front of the train, and it'll actually stop them. It'll save the lives of the 5 people. So do you push the fat person in front of the train?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What's the difference? What's the difference between a switch and a push?
I think. Yeah, I said the same thing, Dan. What Scott is saying. Scott, didn't you say it's because people they feel like they're getting their hands more dirty when they're having
it's like
physically
doesn't feel
push?
like saving people. It feels like murder.
Yeah.
Because a lever is not the same as
because 90% of the people would flip the lever, but only 10% say they would push the fat person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because 80% of people are idiots.
Hey,
we don't talk like that on this show, Dan.
There's literally no difference between pushing somebody and hitting that lever.
Well, I mean, there is in the person's psyche for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's probably the same thing as somebody murdering somebody or paying somebody to murder somebody for them.
Yeah, disconnect between, flying a drone and putting a knife in somebody,
Yeah.
But it's just it teases out some of the weirdness that's involved in our moral decision making. Most of the time we don't think too much about, the decisions that we make, but it seems like it's obvious, right and wrong. It's like you just figure it
out. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we get out of here?
Let's talk about your religion. Are you a religious person?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
What kind of Christian?
Non-denominational.
But you're not
What Bible
Catholic,
do you use?
right? You're not Catholic.
King James.
Because I'm
not Catholic. No.
Non-denominational, right?
King James.
Right.
So you're Baptist.
I think on a very basic sense, you can call yourself a Protestant if you're not a Catholic.
I guess. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
No, the King James. I mean, you'll find people in different sects of Christianity using King James. I think it's more so just which translation. Probably the church that you would call home, what translation they largely use, and then what translation you find the most comfortable for you to do, scripture study and cross-reference and stuff like that, I would imagine. But I just find King James to be, it feels more authentic than reading like a New Living Translation I guess those are written more for, I mean, I have one, but they're written more for, I guess, people who don't want to deal with that old language. And so they read the Bible where it's basically translated to where it said, in the beginning, God got up out of bed and, everything was going great. So it seems,
children.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems more with the times.
Right. I always associated King James with like the Baptist church. I was raised Baptist, so.
Oh, were you? Because we all know the original Christians were British.
Right.
Yeah.
And white.
They were white. They had blue eyes. Haven't you seen the pictures, Scott? Stop making a joke out of this. Pictures of Jesus all over. There's your proof.
So, what? Do you go to church like every Sunday and all that? Are you like a Bible thumping Christian?
Yeah. I go to church, so I'm a Bible thumper. No, I go to church. I miss it sometimes, but I do try to go. Yeah.
You miss it when you're not there.
I do. I miss it. My heart sweats.
Is it like a sore subject for you, or?
No, not at all. Why do you?
No, we're trying to make it more about religion, actually, like more evenly between religion and politics.
Why do you axe? By the way.
I never understood that word until Bigford, a buddy in the Marine Corps, explained it to me. I was like, I can't even say ask. He was like, no, it's axe, like lumber axe. I was like, holy shit, that's so simple. I couldn't say it, just like, what word?
Yeah, because there was a disconnect between what your head was trying to.
Yeah, it was insane. I couldn't repeat it. It was really weird.
That's hilarious.
But, no, I was just curious, just because religion. I always talk about religion with Ferg, and he said,
"Oh yeah,
a Bible thumping."
Yeah, Yeah, I'm a Bible thumper. I joined the Westboro Baptist Church back in 2001.
Yeah.
So you only thump female Bibles.
That's right, and I've hated gays ever since.
Is that an issue, or what do you think about gays?
No, that's a huge. It's in Dallas. In the church I went to for a long time, actually was in the news a few times for the way that they handled like homosexuals that were members of the church, and they found and then they, I guess it was open. They knew that they were gay, but of course that goes against the belief. So they say we're gonna help you, but you need to be actively praying about this and working on it, and like this is your sin struggle or whatever. So I'm just talking within the church, and that person, whoever it was, said, no, I'm gay and I'm cool with being gay and I'm going to keep being gay. I'm going to keep going to the church. So the church says, you know what, you can keep going to the church, but you can no longer be a member because it doesn't go along with the covenant and what we believe. So you can continue to come to church, but you can't be a member. So they
say. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, what you're about to say is right. So they through scripture and through
the Old Testament,
through you're right, and what they've cross-referenced to the New Testament. And now I'm not as knowledgeable as they are, or how they came up with it. I'm sure I could go through what they wrote and probably figure it out. But so they told this person, you're no longer a member, and then obviously the person's not happy about it, and then it made it in the Dallas Morning News and all this kind of stuff. And so they say the church, obviously it gets blown out of proportion. So they say this person was excommunicated, and the church hates gays, and
term that doesn't even apply, probably. Right.
Yeah. And obviously now the Christians, they hate gays, and they all that kind of stuff. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right, but I don't think that it's always handled correctly either within the church. I think the way that the church handles it probably makes a lot of that community feel really ostracized and unloved and probably unwelcome. And so I'm sure the church has they play a big part in making them feel that way.
When did you get involved?
Sure.
Well, I grew up a Christian, but I kind of fell away from it for a long time before, like when I was in the military. After I got out of the military, I probably started consistently going back to church and reading my Bible, I'd say within the last 3 years. And
Do you read your Bible daily, weekly?
Not daily. There's been times where I have read it daily, and then there's been times where I haven't touched it. So, sometimes it's a chore. I mean, I'm not the greatest scripture reader. Some people are super diligent about it, and they actually love it, and it feeds them. It's hard for me.
You're trying to get there.
Trying to get there, yeah. Hey, Dan, what other questions do you have, you asshole?
I was waiting for him to snap.
No, I'm not going to snap.
I'm poking, seeing when he was going to go.
Nah, he's a beast, man. That's why he's doing this podcast.
Yeah, dude, I'm probably one of the greatest people on the face of the planet. First, it's first Jesus, then me, and then President Trump, and then whoever you want to put after that. I don't care. It's irrelevant to my salvation.
Where's Santa Claus in all of this?
Dan, get real, you asshole.
Well, that's different. That's a different white man.
Santa Claus is not white, you idiot. Do some research. He's black. He's got blonde hair.
He just is. Okay, kids. Santa Claus
have you seen
white.
If you haven't had a chance, go watch the movie The Black Terminator. It's really good.
Go watch Megyn Kelly explain to the kids.
Right. Remember when Megyn Kelly in that presidential, or in the was it just Republicans at the time when they were debating, and she said to Trump, she goes, "You have been known to not have a filter, but with that comes comments that have been disparaging. You've called women fat pigs. And then she said something else, and Trump goes, just Rosie."
Just Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh my god,
dude!
Oh man,
when I worked at Chase Tower in downtown Dallas, and the engineering manager over there, he would always bring in hard-boiled eggs, and I did too. we'd always say, oh man, I make the best hard-boiled eggs. And one of the guys in the office goes, why don't we have like an egg off where you guys bring in, make the best hard-boiled eggs you can and bring them in, and then we'll judge on whose is better. And so we brought them in. We each brought 4 hard-boiled eggs, and we sat in the break room, and all the other guys were around. And they're like, okay, how are we going to do this? And so we started eating our own hard-boiled eggs and just going, oh, man. And they're like, no, that's not how this works. You can't. It was so great, man. Classic. All right, guys. Well, that's it for episode number 4. I feel like we had a pretty good discussion going there. Thanks again to Dan DeHoog for joining us on this show. Scott had to step out. He got very, very ill. He could no longer finish this show with us. Dan, would you like to outro in Scott's place?
No.
All right. Well, thanks for joining.
I can't puke on my screen like he did. That was disgusting.
No, that was awful. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. Hey, Dan, you do know Andrew Bonica, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know him by that name. I know by his nickname.
Oh, okay. Well, he's going to be on the show next week, so if you get a chance to listen to that, listen to it. We should bring you back on at some point, and we can discuss what got taken out of this show, and it can make its own show. It just ran way too long. We could put that in another show, but I think we got a lot of topics that we can cover, a lot of material. So I appreciate you coming on, man. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks. It was nice being here.
All right, man. Well, we'll let it play out. See you later, man.
Bye-bye.